From copywriting skill, I remember I wrote an ad once, and it built a sort of a $30 million company on the back of it. So we did an ad. This was
Just drop that bomb. Can you just explain exactly what a copywriter does?
It's really three words. They are salesmanship in print. When you share parts about yourself and show your Achilles heel, then you go beyond just being a service provider. It's like, hey, this person has heart. They've got a story. If you're a tradie and you've got an email list and you're not emailing it regularly, you're leaving money on the table.
What has been some of the lows? What's been the lowest point for you?
Yeah, when we had our hair salon, actually, we were unable to pay the rent at one stage and we got the doors closed on us. People think it's risky to build a business. I look at it and go, it's very risky for it just to be you. One of the things that I did discover, there's one word which is like super, super powerful, and it's 4 letters. The word is...
Most tradies probably wouldn't give a second thought to the copy that goes on, say, their website, or even when they're sending an email to a client. But as the saying goes, words should be weighed and not counted. I'm buggered if I know who said that. I just got off the internet, but it sounds pretty cool. Anyway, in this episode, I chat with Scott Bywater from Copywriting That Sells. And trust me, Scott's words are pound for pound a shitload better than yours and mine. I mean, it's his job. Anyway, we dive into what copywriting really is, why your trade story matters more than you think, and Scott shares a simple yet highly effective email that could land you instant work. Pretty cool stuff. All right, legends, if you've been loving this podcast, I would love it if you were to share it with a mate. And this week I have chosen Mick. He's been cruising around the building site, just waiting for a good podcast, whinging that he's had too many crime podcasts. So share this one with him. That would be really appreciative, because the more people that find out about the podcast, the more people I get to reach and teach them how awesome a trade can truly be. Also, this podcast now has some 5-star reviews, which is pretty awesome. I was pretty excited. And someone has left a written review. So this is from Tigerland56. Let me just get it up here. Okay. What a great podcast. I have been waiting all my life for a podcast like this one. Clearly, you must be talking about another podcast or has very low expectations. At last, help for the tradie. We do an apprenticeship that teaches us the trade, but teaches us nothing about business. We are perceived as the rich tradie, but in reality, it's very different. We often work long hours in bad weather, and if we own our own business, we don't put away any super. I don't recommend doing that, by the way, Tigerland. Which leaves us in a very bad position when we retire. Yes, we can. We are at the mercy of unscrupulous developers and builders who think nothing of closing the doors and leaving us out of pocket so badly that we go broke, leaving a path of broken marriages. It's not all beer and Skittles. I applaud David for any help you can give to educate us for the future. Now, I'm pretty sure that Tigerland56 was having a bad day when he wrote that, but I really do appreciate it. So, if you want to go ahead and leave a 5-star review, that would be super appreciative. If you're feeling like pouring your heart out like Tigerland, be my guest. But yes, I really appreciate the 5-star reviews. Anyway, enough of my bloody waffling. Let's get straight into it. Scott, you bloody legend, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. It's great to be here.
So I wanted to hit you up with a hard-hitting question first up. What has been the craziest headline that you've ever published?
Craziest headline that I've ever published. Gee, that's it's not often I get caught for words.
That's ironic.
To reflect back, like I've written literally thousands of headlines, and I've seen them split tested over the years, and I don't know if there's a crazy one that I can remember, but yeah, like one of the things that I did discover, like very like by myself. I didn't learn it from reading books and all that sort of thing, because I've obviously gone through all the books and learned about all the top, headline starters and all that sort of thing. But there's one word which is like super, super powerful. And this word, the reason it's so powerful is because it brings in the curiosity. And it's 4 letters. Is this word? It's incredibly powerful. And if you ask me about it at the end of this podcast, I'll tell you what it is.
Oh, I love it. That is so good. See, that's the magic of a copywriter. They know how to keep you hanging.
Well, it's a term called, like, it's like from this word, right? Like, so like the reason it works so well is it creates an open loop in people's minds, right? When you use it in a headline. And that is probably the number one thing to include in a headline. So it's not so much about being crazy, and it's not so much being, making, bold, unpredictable promises that are bigger than the other people or that sort of thing. It's understanding your target market at such a deep level that you know which hot buttons to press, and ensuring there's enough curiosity so you want to go past the headline, because the only job of the headline is to get them to read the subheadline, and the subheadline is to get them to read the next section, and so on. So, but that's the job of the headline, is how do I get them to read, to dive into the rest of the article.
Can you just mention something there that sometimes a lot of people that understand story would know what you're talking about, but you said leaving an open loop. What exactly does that mean?
Well, if you've ever watched the morning show or a series of a TV show or something like that, they're always leaving you on an open loop. So it's like, come back after the break and we will, you will meet a talking monkey who can dance, who can do the hula dance or whatever. And you're like, I really should, get on with my day, but I want to see that talking monkey. So you wait 3 minutes through the ads and you come back after the break, sort of thing. So this is the process that has been, it's being used all the time, and we're not even familiar with the fact that we're using it. And so you use it. An example with that 4-letter word in a headline is that word is an open loop in itself. But
oh, wow.
You can use it throughout your copy. So if you're, I might mention something like, there's a really great way to get more leads with Facebook if you're an electrician, as an example. So let's say you're writing an article in a blog and you'll say, okay, I'll talk about that later, but first let me dive into this. And all of a sudden you've set up that open loop, and that to get people to continue reading through that blog post. Now, the same can be said on, let's say you're doing an email series, you can turn them into, and I think Andre Chaperon first sort of coined this term, but soap opera sequences. So where at the end of the email there's like a PS, or you mention and go, PS, did you know there's one way that's 4 times more successful than Facebook ads when you're advertising in terms of conversions, and it works particularly well for plumbers. I'll tell you what it is in my next email. So all of a sudden you're left on that open loop of going, gee, what is that way? And when that next email comes along, you want to open it. So you're constantly creating open loops with your copy is the key, because humanity, like as humans, we always want to close those loops.
Yeah. We've spoken before previously about how YouTube videos and your copywriting really closely interconnect. And what you're explaining there with the ending open loop is a trick that some people use in their YouTube video, is that at the end they'll say, this was a really good video and I demonstrated X, Y, Z. But to actually implement those things, you're going to have to watch this video here. And then they've got a thumbnail that comes up. And it's a very, very clear open loop for those that are looking out for it. But I like the similarities across your YouTube or properly implemented YouTube videos, and what you're explaining is just, it's crazy to me. Is when I connected the dots, I'm like, oh my God. So this is what copywriters do.
Because it's all communication, right? It's all
Yeah.
essentially communication. So one thing, and I learned this from Matt Fury, and I've tested it in emails very, very well. So one of the things I find that works well in emails, for example, is something I call the third way. So what most people tend to do with emails is they'll go out and they'll either blast their list with like these hard-hitting sales messages, which is fine. It gets sales in the short term, but long term, it's like, scorching the earth of a reef. It loses its value, right? So then the list isn't worth a lot. Or they do the opposite, which is what they write love letters to their list, and they don't make any sales, or they don't make many sales and don't get quite what they could out of it. And eventually they do it less and less, and it becomes less appealing and everyone loses. So the third way is, if you can imagine a Venn diagram where you go directly down the middle, where you're leading with really high quality content, so that the next time I send you something, you want to open it because you're getting value from that piece. But at the same time, or I should say, and at the same time, because you never say but, because it disregards everything that you've said before. So you say and, and at the same time, what you're also doing there is you're doing an open loop to take the next stage. So an example of this might be, let's say I'm writing an email and I'm giving tips on Google Ads for plumbers, right? So which is a great way to advertise for a plumber, just because with plumber, if you compare a plumber to a builder, for example, when you're a plumber, you've got a problem you want to fix fast. You go to Google, you're making a quick decision, bang, which is very different from a builder, where it might be like a 6 or 12-month decision type of thing. So
yes,
always very important to understand that when you're advertising. But the let's say a plumber, we might write an email along the lines of, did you know, there's one best medium of advertising for a plumber is Google Ads. The reason it's a great way is because, imagine your taps aren't working. What's the first thing you do? You go to Google. You're ready to make a quick decision, and you go directly to Google. And the reason Google works so well, and then you drop all these statistics about how amazing Google is and how many searches and all of that sort of thing. So it's value. But and then at the end of it, you go. There's one type of ad that works better for Google for plumbers than any other. I have tested this ad with 87 plumbers, and the average ROI is a 3-to-1 return on investment. Would you like to see what this ad is?
That's attractive. That's really attractive.
In my latest newsletter, grab a copy of it here, and then you put a link, and then it goes to a sales letter for a paid newsletter, right? So, or you direct them to a consultation. I'll tell you exactly what it is when we have a consultation. I'll take you through a video overview of it. And so you can see we're leading with value, but there's such a big carrot on the end with an open loop where I need to take that step to close that loop. And that's what's really powerful. That's what's far more powerful in email marketing than just sending out love letters to your list. So you're marrying the two, where you're winning, your customer's winning, everyone's happy, and your customer's really winning, because if you're doing a good job and they actually do meet with you and you do sell them and they do double their business as a result, then it's wins all around.
That's interesting. You mentioned about the Google ads. I've been testing some value add Google ads lately, which isn't a direct response market. So I've set up a landing page that goes to essentially a blog where it's like 5 tips, revealing 5 tips about how to best install this particular thing. I won't reveal what the actual client is, but it's getting some actually outsized returns, because it's out of the norm from your general. I mean, it's quite a competitive industry on Google as well, and all the ads are specifically advertising the business and what they do. It's exactly the same. Whereas when my ad comes up, it says, here are the top 5 tips to installing X. And then it gives value inside of the landing page. And then bang, there's a CTA. And I'm seeing some really outperforming results. And it's exactly what you're talking about with your email. It's value, and then hit them with the CTA at the bottom. It's really interesting.
I love that with Google Ads, and I think it's a really I can see it being like super effective with what you're doing. I mean, as an example, right? You could have an ad. Let's say it could be any trades, but let's say you're a plumber or an electrician. 7 mistakes people make when they hire an electrician.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone's worried about, right? So it goes there and it delivers on the promise, the 7 mistakes, and these are the mistakes, and this is how you get, this is how you get taken advantage of, and all that sort of thing, whatever those things particularly are, which are, honest to your industry and your integrity with all that sort of thing. And then, and then you explain, and then after you've done the 7 mistakes, you explain why the way you work, and the fact when they work with you, they don't have to worry about that. And then you have a call to action to an appointment from there. Like,
it's
to
powerful.
me, that's because what you're doing is you're entering the conversation going on in someone's mind, right?
Yeah.
Which is the number one thing you need to do with copy. So if you understand, the question to be asking when you're writing a Google ad is, when I'm the customer on that, and I type in plumber Melbourne or plumber Sydney or plumber Bundaberg or whatever it is, what's that conversation going on in my mind? And then if your headline can hit it and you can lead me to content which can educate me, and then do the call to action, that's gold. And I can see why that's working.
It's doing really well. So I actually want to step back a little bit, because we've raced ahead. I had a conversation the other day with a client, and I said, we need to tidy up some of this copy. And he said, what the fuck are you talking about, Dave? I don't know what copy is. So I think for us in the industry, people are like, we understand what we're talking about, but can you just explain exactly what a copywriter does and how what you do day to day? Because it's not just putting words on paper, is it?
No, so the best way I would explain what a copywriter does, it's really 3 words, okay? And those 3 words are, don't worry, I won't leave you with an open loop for these 3 words. They are they are salesmanship in print, right? So what they are is like it's like selling, but it's in the printed word. So I always give the analogy, like I work with quite a number of builders. And one of the analogies I give, I say, listen, imagine you get the highest quality lead that you could get, and they call you this afternoon. So would you send your apprentice out to meet with them? And most of them are like, there's no way I'd send an apprentice out. This is a client which could be worth $1 million to me. There's no way I'm going to send out an amateur. And then I say, well, marketing's changed, right? So marketing's changed in the last couple of decades. So I remember, like I've been doing this for decades, and I remember back in the time when a client would obsess over that Yellow Pages ad, and if they got that Yellow Pages ad right, they were right for the year, right? That's all they really had to do. So whereas now clients are going online, they're doing research, they're looking you up, they're doing all these sort of things. So 80% of the sale is done. They're not, doing it and then necessarily meeting with 3 people. They're doing 80% of their research online before they even meet with someone. So what you're doing is, what most businesses are doing is they're sending out a digital apprentice, okay, to do it. And they're not like, so they're sending out a digital apprentice so they don't get the call in the first place. And this is where it's so important. So what you want to be doing is you want to be sending out your best possible salesperson. And that's where you're hiring a copywriter for things like, like your web copy. Like, is it really compelling? Does your about us, have heart? Does it tell your story? Your about us page, does it really connect with your reader on a deep level below just saying that you've been in business for like 35 years. Yeah, is there a uniqueness to what you do? So for example, I talked to a builder once, and they were based in the Sunshine Coast, and 90% of their clients were coming from what do you call it when you've got big plots of land, acreage. So they're coming from acreage, and they lived on acreage all their life. So we could then position themselves as the acreage specialists. So who do you want to deal with? You want to deal with a generic builder, or do you want to build with a acreage specialist? Obviously, if you want acreage, you want to deal with the specialist. So it's all of these sort of things, like on your website, for example. But then it also comes down to like your content. So what's the is your content answering all their questions and the questions going on in their mind? Because there's an interesting book called They Ask You Answer, and what he found was that if someone absorbed 30 or more pieces of content, he was selling swimming pools, and it's probably slightly different. Like if you're a plumber, and people they just want a plumber instantly, so you need to take this into context. But if someone absorbs 30 or more pieces of content before they meet with you, the conversion rate jumped in that industry from the average was 10% conversion rate. Guess what it jumped to if they'd absorbed 30 or more pieces of content?
God, well, there's no like and trust depending on the content. Oh, it'd be well over, I'm going to say over 80%. That's a big call, but.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. You nailed it. So it jumped to 80%.
I did. Wow.
So it jumped 8 times, right? So, and that content can come through numerous sources. So it can come through your blogs, it can come through your social posts, it can come through, like a number of can come through your emails. You could write a book, and if someone reads that whole book, that's like absorbing 30 or more pieces of content in one go, right? Or you could have a webinar, and people do that. So it's
you can have a podcast.
Yeah, or a podcast. Exactly. That's why podcasting's so powerful, right? If someone's listening to it and they're building that, you're building that connection with the with a particular service provider. So
yeah. I wanted to speak about what part storytelling plays when you are approached by somebody, and I mean this fits into target market and market fit as well, because I think people might want to engage as a copywriter to say, righto, Scott, I just need a really high converting landing page that gets me all these leads. And for you, I suspect you might take a step back and say, well, let's start with who is the people that we're speaking to, so that I can get my copy correct. Because otherwise, it's just falling on deaf ears. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's really critical to understand the customer. So understanding the conversation going on in the customer's mind. So what I ideally like to do with, when I first take on a client is first go through what a process I call my copy strategy guide. So it's where you're understanding the avatar, number one. So who are we selling to? Basic sort of things like, how old are they? Where do they live? Who's making the decision, if it's a couple, all of that sort of thing. You also want to understand the emotional hot buttons. So what are their fears, their pains, their desires, their beliefs, their problems, all of that sort of thing, the benefits you can offer, who's their public enemy, what do they like the least, all of that sort of thing. So when you understand all of that sort of thing, you can really write to them. But what's more, you can write not just your sales page. You can write compelling content. What to hit on in particular sales messages, all of that sort of thing. Then I go into like the core story. So what is their story? Like I want to know, what's your story, because people connect with stories. So I interviewed a builder, and he I think his father passed away when he was 10, as an example. And when you incorporate that in the story and what you learned from that and how that's made you a better builder today and all of that sort of thing, you build a emotional connection from that, a heart connection. And it doesn't always have to be that much of a dramatic story, but when you share parts about yourself and show your Achilles heel, then you go beyond just being a service provider. It's like, hey, this person has heart. They've got a story, because we all do, right? And I'm yet to find someone who doesn't have an interesting part to their story. Like I was talking to a builder, for example, and he'd lived in 17 homes. So the fact that he'd lived in so many homes, because his family were sort of builders and developers, and they'd build homes and sell them, but that experience gave him, because he'd lived in so many homes, he knew what didn't work, he knew what did work. So that made him a better designer builder for that particular client, for clients. And that's like
exactly
an edge. So understanding all of this, the unique selling proposition, all of that sort of thing is like super powerful. And then you can bring that into your web copy, you can bring that into your sales pages, you can bring it into your Google ads. Another client, like they had the husband was a builder, but the wife was a designer. So all of a sudden you've got the unique part is, hey, we're like a build design team in-house, so you don't have the confusion of the designer not understanding the builder, or the designer, or the designer or architect, developing your plan for a $1.2 million home, and then your budget's only $800,000 and you can't actually build the home, and all of this sort of thing can be incorporated into it. But that's where it comes to the research is so critical. And there's an interesting thing, because now we've got AI, right? AI is like, everyone's like, hey, AI is awesome, and it's true. It is incredible. And it's never been easier to create, to put words on a page, right? You just go into AI and say, write me a sales page for a plumber, and it'll give you like 500 words in like 3 seconds, which is wonderful, right? But the problem is, what Gary Vaynerchuk found is, he said 40% of your time this is with copy and this is pre-AI, but the same thing applies. 40% of your time should be spent on research, 40% on writing, and 20% on editing. I've always found I spend more time on the editing than the writing, and the writing is the easiest thing to do. So the writing is the easiest thing to do. So the AI can help and can assist with some of the easy stuff, but where what it won't help, it can assist with the research as well, but it requires a human mind to articulate that and pull all of that sort of thing together. So doing the research and getting like super clear on that, and doing the editing, and doing the and directing the AI to do any writing is really the big key now. Do you know what I mean? So it's that strategic thinking to bring all of that together.
How do you feel about the state of AI currently, because it's primarily used for copy? That's really what it's used for, majority of right now.
Yep.
Do you think that AI is going to wipe out copywriters?
I think it'll wipe out a lot of copywriters. Yeah. So and what I mean by that is, if you're if you're an average writer who's not strategic, I mean, you're pretty much gone, right? Like
Gone already. Yeah.
Like if you're just, just punching out words, and there's not a lot of thought behind them and all that sort of thing. And I know, but writing quality stuff is still very difficult. And I know that because I work with a number of writers, and I bring writers in my team, and I'm always testing people, because to write the quality stuff, AI just can't punch out that quality. Yeah. So, and I will test writers, and I'll give them a test task and all of this sort of thing. And 9 out of 10 can't do it. They can't get the writing clear so that it pops. So, and it's easy to write stuff that doesn't pop. It's very easy. It's like if I mean, sales is a prime example, right? Like any of us can go out and talk to people, every one of us. So you can put 100 people that can all go and talk to people and knock on doors and talk to people. But there'll be one salesperson that can probably sell as much as the 99, right?
Yes,
And
agreed.
that's
Yeah,
or might not be one, but I'll tell you, for sure, 20% will be able to sell as much as the 80%. Why
yeah.
is that? Because they're highly skilled.
They
They're
understand
highly
what they're
skilled.
saying. Yeah,
And it's the same with writing. You need to have that headline that pops. You need to understand the target market, and it's quite a lateral skill which the AI, just can't pull together. It can
yeah,
do some of it if it's directed extremely well. If it's directed extremely well, it can do some of it, but it can't like join the dots yet. In 5 years, who knows, right? Because it is
yeah,
getting smarter and smarter and smarter. But right now, you need someone who can get that flow happening and make it pop. Otherwise, the problem is, and this is the way I see it with content, right? It's never been easier to create. So if you're creating the same, if you're just going to AI and going, write me an article for a plumber on how to fix taps, as an example. So if you're just punching that in AI, there's 1,000 other people who can do that as well. So imagine that you're looking for food, right? And you're in a town, and there's 1,000 places you can get food. Where are you going? And it's all for free, right? But we're
free
talking. I'm
food.
giving the analogy of content, right? It's all for
Yep,
free. It's all the same
yep.
price. It's all everything. Are you going to go to the place that serves up the worst food, or are you going to find the place that serves up the best food?
100%. You are going to the gold-plated steak dinner.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same with content, right? So if we've got a choice, no one wants to go and get the worst stuff. We want to go to the best stuff. So let's say you're writing blog posts, and you're creating one blog post a month, and you've created 60 blog posts after 12 months over 5 years. And I go to one of your blog posts and it is crap and it's terribly written.
Yeah,
Then I'm probably not going to go back. The same as if you go for a bad meal. But if I go, wow, that Dave List, he knows his stuff. He really knows his stuff. Same with a podcast, right? That was an awesome podcast. Then you're going to want to listen to another one. But if it's a terrible podcast, you're not going to want to listen to another one. So every time you're putting something out there to the marketplace, your brand is on the line,
yes.
essentially. And that's why it's really important to understand your target market, and do all of that. Understand your core story, understand your unique selling proposition, so you're getting something across which really connects with your reader.
Yeah, we spoke about storytelling. You've got an interesting story yourself and how you got into copywriting. And I've been told I need to ask about your fasting adventure.
Fasting adventure. I've had a few of them. Yeah.
How did you get into copywriting and where you are today?
So copywriting, I actually got into when I was about 24, right? And this is when I met the woman who's now my wife. 20-year anniversary this year, and
Congratulations.
yeah. I'm getting old, I'm like, geez, how did that happen? But I started off doing sales jobs. Like I was hitting the phones, telemarketing when I was 17. I was door-to-door sales before that. Then I went into call center training and then corporate sales. And so I was literally, because copywriting is salesmanship in print, without knowing it, I was doing a university degree in copywriting, without even realizing it, right? So then I did a Jay Abraham seminar when I was 17 as well, and my brain popped. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is the stuff I want to do, because I could see all the leverage and just the way he thought and all that sort of thing. But at the age of 24, I went to a Brad Sugars seminar, and he's like, yeah, build a business, set it up, and then sell it. So anyway, we took over this hairdressing salon. We just took over the lease, right? And then I quickly realized that Dunning-Kruger, in fact, effect in action, that I didn't know much about business. I sort of knew marketing, but there was so much with the staff management and finances and all this sort of thing I didn't really know. So we got a lesson in marketing. I tested a lot of things, but we got out of it sort of 6 months later, and it was quite a painful experience dealing with staff and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Buyer beware.
That was a fun journey. But then I set up. I ran an ad, and I said, "What did I say? Marketing genius, proven results, or something." So I ran an ad in it was a classified ad. So that I ran in the newspaper. And it was about $18. I think I got it on credit because I was quite broke back at that time. And I got one client, and I went to another, and I went to another, and I went to another, and then eventually, but I wasn't doing well because I was sort of learning as I went. And then my wife saw this ad for Reader's Digest and Women's Intuition. She's like, you should go for that job. So anyway, I went for that job, and long story short, the copywriting manager really liked me, but the HR manager didn't, because my past was a bit checkered in terms of doing this job and that job and this job and all of that sort of thing. So I didn't get the job, but I did get the confidence. So I got the confidence, and I set up as a copywriter, and I 10x'd my income, admittedly from a low base, but I literally 10x'd my income overnight as soon as I positioned myself as a copywriter. Wow. So, which taught me about positioning, right? Because I was a marketing consultant, and I changed to a copywriter, and my income just exploded. And I never looked back, and I'm going, oh, if you position yourself one way or you position yourself another way, it can be a game changer. And a lot of that, it would be different now, right? Like when I did it, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I was decent, like as a writer. Like that's why the copywriting manager liked me at Reader's Digest without even knowing it, because a lot of the things I was doing as a marketing consultant was actually copywriting. So it was okay, but nowhere near the talent that I am now. But there wasn't a lot of competition, right? Like copywriting people like, what's that? Whereas now it's not known by everyone, but people used to think I was a lawyer or something back then. So it's so that was my journey into becoming a copywriter, and it's also why I'm quite passionate about that positioning, because it really can make a difference if you get that positioning right, and you ride I sort of give the analogy of it's like surfing, right? If you get on the right wave at the right time, because it wasn't so much that I was brilliant, but I got on that wave at the right time, and I could ride that wave right in. Whereas if you had been a little bit earlier or a little bit later, a little bit earlier you sail over the top of it, a little bit later you get dumped. And I think that's the same. And there's always new waves coming through. Like when Facebook advertising, some people jumped on that wave and did incredibly well, right? Because it was a new wave. And then you got TikTok experts, or there's always AI now. So there's always waves to jump on. And if you can jump on that right wave at the right time, it's a real unfair advantage.
I'm always fascinated with professions that are really highly leveraged, and what I mean is that you can put in very little effort. I mean, it might be a high skill set. You can put in very little effort and then get a really outsized return. And I think it's what I'm trying to teach to a lot of the tradies, is that rather than positioning yourself where you used to trade your time for money, you could trade your skill set as a value proposition. So instead of saying, "Oh, well, it'll take me a day to do the downlights," You could say your house is going to look sensational after we put in these downlights. You're going to want to get your family around. You're going to have all these amazing experiences because I put these downlights in. And you can essentially charge, 3 times, 4 times the amount because of that. So what in your experience or your career has been one of the most outsized returns because of your copywriting skill?
Yeah, from copywriting skill, I remember I wrote an ad once, and it built a sort of a $30 million company on the back of it. So we did an ad. This was back,
Just drop that bomb. Jesus.
I mean, there was a lot more. Like the guys who were running the company obviously knew what they were doing and all of that sort of thing. But that ad really kicked off the company. So this was back.
What was it?
Weight loss. So it was a weight loss ad for an information product, which sold for, I don't know whether it sold for like $100 or $200 or $70. I can't remember the exact price point, but it was a low price point. Like, it wasn't like, we're not selling $800,000 homes here or anything like that. It was so that did extremely well, and the ad worked, and then they just kept running it, right? And then we got, when that ad fatigued, they ran other ads and all of that sort of thing. So, and then we also done stuff where email launches, like if you're a tradie and you've got an email list and you're not emailing it regularly, you're leaving money on the table, like for absolutely, for sure. So the one, like we did an email launch, and these are big stories, decent sized lists, but I've done email launches which bring in $1 million in a week, over $500,000. I've done probably, it'd have to be close to, if not more than, a dozen 6-figure launches.
Wow.
2 email lists. So email gets a 36, according to litmus.com, email gets a 36 to 1 ROI for every dollar invested. So
36.
36
wow.
to 1. So it's a massive ROI, virtually zero risk because they're already your past clients and all that sort of thing. So if you've got an email list and you're not emailing your clients on a regular basis to stay in touch with them, then that's, you're leaving money on the table. So, and it doesn't need to be hard sell stuff. Like one very I'll give you this at the end as well as a 4-letter word, is ask me about the short email that you can use to like almost instantly get clients, which would instantly get people to raise their hand again and show their interest. And you can do it in
fascinated already.
5 minutes, and it's free. It's virtually free. So
maybe we can use that 4-letter word in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we might be able to. I'll have a think about that.
So, I'm thinking about, as a copywriter, you've obviously had some fairly big highs, and we were talking about how highly leveraged something like your profession can be. What has been some of the lows? What's been the lowest point for you?
Yeah, I think during the, during the early days, like it was very tough. When I was like marketing consultant, like I was living literally when I had that hair salon, I was living very much hand to mouth. Very much hand to mouth, which was quite tough. And when we had our hair salon, actually we were unable to pay the rent at one stage, and we got the doors closed on us.
No.
So pretty tough sort of tough sort of periods. Since I started the and had to call my mum for a loan at the last moment. So they're pretty tough sort of things to go through. The other one was even as a copywriter, I think the biggest mistake I've ever made is putting too much energy into one or two clients where you become dependent on them. So you forget about your business. You got these big clients, which is quite prestigious, right? But it's a terrible way to run a business. So, and when that client disappears, you go, oh, I don't actually have a business here, because and then you've got to build up and build up and build up. So I think that's a really, I mean, I can see trades getting into this trap. Like, let's say if you're doing commercial trades as an example, and
Yeah.
you've got one client, one or two big clients. That I think that's a real trap that you never want to fall into. I also think it's a trap anyone who, if you're working by yourself and you don't have a team, and I think a lot of trades are very similar to whether it's white collar or blue collar. When you're working by yourself and you don't have a team, you can only take on so much work. So your people think it's risky to build a business. I look at it and go, it's very risky for it just to be you, right? It's like super risky because you can only take on so much. So what happens? You knock back stuff, but that's optionality for the future. Oh no, I'm too busy now. I can't do that, right? Whereas you want to be in a position where you've got lots of clients because they're always coming back. They're always coming back. They're coming back. They're coming back. So you want to have a team, and plus, when you're a business owner, you can go out there and market and bring more in, and bring more in, and bring more in. So if I was listening to this as a tradie, I'd go, how do I make that transition from being a tradie to being a business owner? Because people think it's risky to be a business owner. And when I say a business owner, that's different to a freelancer. Because if you're a tradie, let's say, and you rely on one builder for 80% of your work, then you're exposed because that builder, anything could happen, right? They could go broke. They could sell the business. They could just, you might upset them for whatever reason. There might be just a break, and then all of a sudden, where's your business gone?
Exactly.
I think that's probably one of the big lessons for me is not to fall into that trap.
I think a lot of tradies would find themselves in that position where they're subcontracting the majority of their work comes from one particular person because you fall into it's easy. They've got work for you pretty much all the time. So let's go in and just continually work for them. But it really is a hindrance when like you were saying. Also, it's hard to scale that way, really, isn't it? So by actually having more clients, you're able to put on. I don't know. I'm in the position now where I'm in the chicken and the egg, where I've got enough, just more work than it is enough for me. So I'm looking at potentially putting someone on, but making sure that you still got enough work coming in, right? So yeah, I think a lot of tradies would find themselves stuck in that position. So if that's the case, what could they do in their marketing and copywriting to try and get more clientele? It sounds like they just need more leads, essentially.
Yeah, well, I think there's ABM and ABR. Like you got a combination of ABM and ABR. And I won't tell you what they are later. I'll tell you what they are now. So.
We've got too many of them at the end.
We have like 16 open loops, I mean, like crazy. So ABM is always be marketing, right? So you're constantly marketing, always be marketing, never stop. And you can fall into the trap of not marketing when you get busy because you're like, business is good, money's good, it's all cruising, all that sort of thing. But you want to be thinking 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years out. So for example, I know people who've had email lists of 100,000 plus, and they just stopped using it, and then the email list died, right? And that could have been a massive asset for them for years. One thing I've always done is consistently, no matter how busy I get, I always keep just Yeah, even if it's once a week, once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks. I went through a period of over a decade where I emailed my list once a day, but I will never let it go
What?
more than a month without mailing them. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I did it once a day. That's how I built my business, was once a day. So was once a day emailing, which is a super, like, it's super powerful. It's amazing
It's
the
an intense
relationships you
process
build.
too, though. Like emailing every day. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
but I'm like email, socials. Like you should be like, you should be everywhere always, right? Like in an ideal world, you're everywhere always. Should have like physical newsletters going out to your past customers, all of that sort of thing. So always be marketing is really key in setting up those systems. And I don't do all of these things as perfectly as I'd like to, because we're all pulled in different directions. But
Mm.
you always got to be marketing, but always be recruiting as well. So
Oh.
always be recruiting. So you're building relationships. What's the I think Harvey Mackay wrote the book Dig the Well. Dig the well while it's not empty. So you're always recruiting, building relationships, meeting with someone who could be a future team member. Like, so you're combining that, because you got two things, right? You've got capacity. Like so if you want to fill up a boulder with water, meaning or fill up your cup with water, you've got to turn that. If you want more money, you've got to, with the water being money, you've got to turn that cup into a swimming pool. So that's capacity. So you've got to be building that capacity. But in addition to that, you've also got to be pouring the water in. So it's like, so you've got to be working on capacity and the
So that's the
marketing, to
marketing.
ensure that
Yeah.
you're always full. And I think it's playing the long game with everything, which is, as humans, we tend to be very short game focused, right? Like we'll eat the chocolate because it's tasty now, even though we know if we do that consistently, we're going to end up with diabetes later. And this is just a human nature type of thing, but it also happens in our business. Oh, money's good now. I'll just, I don't want to spend money for 2 years down the track. I'll just, go and buy a speedboat
Ferrari.
or something like that. Like
Yeah.
and then it's like, a month later, oh, geez, that builder who's been sending me all the work, they just, they've decided to go and move to another state. Or where's all my work gone? Like you want to be thinking about that, and just, it's the old SWOT analysis. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my opportunities? What are my threats? Do a mind map of that and go, how do I fall in each of these categories, and how do I protect myself for, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the track? Because it's what you do today there's gonna be a lag effect that's gonna impact you 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the 5 years down
Yeah.
the track.
Uh, I'm interested. I just want to pivot a little bit into video, because video is something I'm really passionate about, and trying to provide tradies with a way that they can at least get some sort of video on the internet. And when you started copywriting, I would have suggested the vast majority was just written text on web pages.
Yep.
So what are your feelings around how people can leverage video in their business? And then also, what do you think are some of the techniques that a copywriter could do within a video itself?
Yeah, so video is obviously incredibly, incredibly powerful, and you can develop a real relationship or a connection with someone when you do it on video. I mean, you just to give you an example, the difference between talking to someone over the phone or having a Zoom meeting, and notice the connection that you have if you haven't met them before. It's very different when you have that video, that video incorporated into it. And the same goes with your marketing, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or whatever you're doing. So I think the same principles apply, though. It's all, it is all, like, I use the same principle on this, which is video or audio, depending on how people are consuming it, of the open loop. right at the beginning of this as I would use on a blog post, right? So you do that on a blog post, but we're doing this on video. So it's exactly the same thing. And you can have let's say a 10-minute VSL, which is quite a popular marketing strategy these days, where you put people into a VSL and you book an appointment on the back end of it. Or as a tradie, you could easily be running, particularly if you're doing, if you're let's say a builder where you're selling stuff high end or that sort of thing, you could be running webinars. As a plumber, maybe maybe not. Although if you're thinking outside the box, let's say as an electrician or something like that, there may be benefits that people don't even know that they can have, where you start to sell the benefits. So it's like how to make your home look brand new without giving it a paint job or something. I don't know,
No, it's
like
a good one, actually. Yeah.
And it's like, and then you watch this webinar and like the end result is, hey, did you know that lighting, did you know the impact that lighting has on someone when they walk into a room? Did you know, and you there's probably like scientific stuff which shows that, good lighting and the benefits of good lighting and all this sort of thing. Did you know that you could, this is another one for an electrician, right? Like let's say I'm looking at selling my home as an example. I'm looking at selling my home. How much is it worth to me if an electrician like people pay a lot for home staging?
Yeah, they do.
For home staging, right? Have you thought about light staging your home? And
Oh,
all
that's
of a
excellent.
sudden,
Yeah.
what you might charge $1,500 for, that's worth like a lot more because you're a specialist in light staging. And then you could run ads on Facebook, or you could send direct mail letters or whatever to people who are selling your home. This is the easiest way to impress people when they walk into your home, and could add X% to the value of your home. So all of a sudden, you're not an electrician. You're someone who gets someone, on $1 million home, you're going to help them get an extra $50,000. Well, what's that worth?
Yeah. What a great example of positioning, like you were talking earlier, positioning yourself into that position. And all of a sudden, you've been able to 10x at the same product. It's exactly the same product. Yeah. But you now give somebody the benefit of saying, well, now you can provide them with an extra $50,000. Of course, they're going to say yes. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's and you're solving a problem, because what you want to look for the bleeding neck problems. So for example, if I've got, like let's say someone's got a heart problem or something like that, and they need someone to fix that problem in the next 7 days, or they're going to die, right? If they've got that problem, that's like a really problem. How much are they going to pay for that? They're not going to go, oh, are you going to charge me $3,000 or $5,000? They're going to be like, I'll pay you $50,000. Because it's exactly. It's a bleeding neck problem. So what you want to be looking for is if you can solve the big problems, and this is where ChatGPT can be really handy, because you can use it as almost like a research assistant to go for that and say, hey, I'm an electrician. What are the big problems that people have that perhaps I could solve, act as a professional positioning strategist or something like that. So you can use ChatGPT is brilliant for all that, and can be a starting point. So, but like in terms of the trades, who do you mostly work with? Like obviously electricians, plumbers, builders.
A lot of Sparkies at the moment. Being an ex-Sparky, I've got a lot of contacts. So yeah, Sparkies. I've got a plumber coming on shortly as well. So typically, I don't want to bring down any other trades, but typically builders, plumbers and Sparkies are the most savvy when it comes to marketing. So they're the ones that I target mostly. But any trade, I'm happy to take on any trade if you listen, because you all fall under the same messaging, really.
Yeah. So Sparkies, I just think, it's looking at where does lighting add the most value. So let's say you became a a Sparky who specialize in, like in retail. Yeah, and you went after, but not just in retail, but like, exclusive sort of retail. All of a sudden, your value goes up and you're not the same as other Sparkies. You've got to have an edge, right? You go and do research on colors, and you do research on all of these things and what makes different colors stand out and all of that sort of thing. So because people, if you're just bullshitting, then people will see through it, right? But if you actually go the think long game and go, how can I make it? Maybe you read a book like Why We Buy, which is a great book, and you understand how retail sales works and the whole process of it is, and all of a sudden you become a retail lighting specialist. Now, if I've just spent $300,000 outfitting my Dior store or something, right? How much do you think I care if the lighting is going to make it that much better? Do you think I care if I pay $2,000 or $10,000 for lighting?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I don't care. You're probably $20,000 for lighting if it's going to make it like that much better. It's huge. So the positioning thing on that. And that's just one example. You got the selling their homes. You want to be looking at where does lighting add the most value, and how can I be like an expert at offering amazing, at offering amazing lighting that's better than the average, electrician out there.
There's a really good case study I bring up a lot with some of my clients, and his name's Artisan Electrics. He's got an amazing YouTube channel. And when he started his business, he's spoken about this before, is that he liked the idea of being in the residential space. And I think of when people think about residential, it's, quite low ticket offers and stuff like this. Well, he positioned his business where he would still do residential, but only for really, really high net worth individuals. So like he had this really interesting type font that he would have for his logo. It just oozed luxury. And over time, as he built his business, they are the particular customers that he was able to attract. And then he leveraged, well, how about we do solar for these particular people? So he niched down again. And solar for those type of people isn't about actually saving money. It's actually about showing the other Mr. and Mrs. Jones that you have solar. So he's actually able to charge a lot more than what other people do when they're trying to actually get like a zero sum, bill. Whereas he's just like trying to provide an artificial value essentially. So it's just a really interesting case study on positioning yourself within whatever market you're in. I just thought it was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's important to keep in mind, this isn't about taking advantage of people. This is what this is about, is it's about adding more value. Because if you can add more value, then it's like you're adding more value. Like if I run an email list and you've got an email list of 1 million people, I can add a lot more value than if you've got a list of 50 people, right?
Exactly.
It's just the truth. So who am I better off targeting? I'm better off targeting the larger list size if I'm looking to just do email marketing, if that's my goal. But it's the same applies to electricians. As an example, you're much better now if someone's just spent, if Rolex has just got a shop in, built a shop in Sydney and they've spent a fortune outfitting it, well then your lighting is just way more valuable than it is if you're doing the lighting for a 2-bedroom home. It's just going to add so much value. But you also need to be unique, and maybe you need to upgrade your skills so that you really do have an edge, and you're not just like every other electrician, because eventually that gets seen through, right? And then people don't come back. Like I know, because like, for example, I do test tasks for writers all the time to bring them on. I've got writers who I probably pay close to, probably not 6 figures, but it'd be close to 6 figures a year to, right? To do writing. Now, if they were really good, these writers coming through, I would probably bring them on, and they could earn as much as that. To me, they could earn hundreds of thousands of dollars, just from me over time, right? But when they're not good, it's like one project, it's not a good fit, sorry, bang. So it's really important, and it's the same in any industry, right? Like, so if you're an electrician and you go into that Rolex store and they're just like, wow, I'm blown away with the lighting that you did. People talk, people talk,
exactly.
and then you can showcase them and that sort of thing. And all of a sudden you get a reputation, and that one $5,000 job turns into $100,000 over a period of time. So it's really important to go, how do we have an edge over the competition? And it's more important now than ever because technology's coming in, AI, this, that, the other. So, and I don't know how it's going to hit different industries. Like I can see building, like in 10 years, will there be 3D building, in, I don't know what's going to happen with electrical and all of that sort of thing. Like, but if you're just average, I think it's going to be, get harder and harder to thrive. So you got to be constantly investing in yourself. I think, because copy's one thing, and it's great to have good copy and sell. But if you just have good copy to get the sale, and then you let people down at the sale, then what could have been, what could have been $50,000 in ongoing work and referrals stops at like being $1,000 job or whatever it is.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. Now, do you think we should put the listeners out of their misery and tell them what this email is and this secret 4-letter word? I'm curious myself.
Yeah. So the 4-letter word, it works because it brings curiosity, right? And sometimes people say when you say the 4-letter word, they're thinking like, a word like free or something like that, which is, what everyone thinks is powerful. And it is. Like, free definitely has its place, like offering a free report or a free white paper or that sort of thing. But the word is this. Okay, so this.
Really?
So 4-letter word, like very common word, right? So if I say something like, as an example, Google AdWords is the best way to get more customers for a plumber.
Okay.
I've given it away, right? Google AdWords, do you want to read more? You're like, okay, Google AdWords is the best way. Awesome. Thanks. I'm on my way. Yeah. But if I say this, this is the best way, just a simple headline. This is the best way to get more customers for a plumber.
I love it.
Or this, or the best way to fix a leaky tap is to to turn it. I don't know what it is, but is to turn it anti-clockwise and then clockwise really quick. I don't know. I'm sure that's not true. I'm talking to experts here. So, but if I tell you that, you're like, okay, that's cool. But if I say this is the best way to fix a leaky tap in 3 minutes, let's say it's a YouTube ad or something like that, you want to read that because you don't know what it is. Yeah. And then I can break that, and then I can break that down. So it's an amazing curiosity word. Is a word this. Another, you can do, I later found this, and it was BuzzSumo who did some AI interpretation of all the most popular headlines and all that sort of thing. And I later found that this was actually in that. I'd never seen it in a marketing or advertising book before that. But they also have, like, this will make you. So this will make you, or this will make your home, or this will make your guests light up when they walk into your lounge room. Could be good for an electrician, right? This will like that sort of thing. This will make your toilet, your toilet flush like brand new. I don't know, that sort of thing. I mean, if I was a plumber, just out of interest, like, do plumbers sell bidets?
I don't know if they sell them, but I've certainly used one, and I'm a big fan. So
I've
Let's go
never
with it.
used one, but I'd like
Oh,
to,
really?
right? So
Yeah.
if I was a plumber, I'd be talking about what I would do if I was a plumber to stand out, because this could be a whole new niche, right? You could, this is why toilet paper is toxic. And
Oh,
I'm sure there's studies out there about toilet papers being toxic, right? Because let's face it, virtually everything that's mass produced is toxic these days. So this is why
yeah.
toilet paper is toxic. Yeah. So you go out there and find the studies, and I can't say for sure, but I'd be fairly certain there will be studies out there that toilet paper is toxic if you deep dived enough. And then you talk about why toilet paper is toxic, right? This would be great on a Facebook ad,
Yeah.
I think it'd explode. This is why toilet paper is. People go in, they look it up, and then they're like, "Oh shit, toilet paper is toxic." And then the solution is to get a bidet.
Bidet, yeah. Yep.
Right. The solution is to get a bidet, and then you go. We've got one. There is one solution. Get this free report, and we'll show you how to solve this problem. So then they put their details. They get the free report. You've got your lead. You get the phone number. You call them up afterwards. You send them a few follow-up emails, and all of a sudden you're not a plumber anymore. You're selling bidets. That gets you in the door as a unique edge, and away you go. So it's all that's just
One example. So look, expect to see a plumber starting to sell bidets on Facebook or Google soon.
It's like it's and you've got to test these things. But like people go, I spoke with a young guy the other day, and he's an apprentice plumber, and he goes, "Oh, it's so." I said, "You should start up your own business." "Oh, it's so competitive and all that sort of thing." There's no competition if you know how to market, because you can set yourself up as a category of one. Just by doing that, you are a category of one. You're the only person selling bidets in your area, most likely. So it's thinking outside the box is really key. Now, the email idea that we discussed earlier. So the email, and this I can't credit ownership of this, but this comes from Dean Jackson, right? And it's called the nine word email. So what you do is you basically go back to your past clients. You create a list of them. Go through your email. You create a list. The ones who didn't end up going ahead. So let's say you're a builder. They've inquired about a home. They haven't done anything. You put them all on the list, and you put on the subject line. You can either put quick question, or you can put their first name, and then you say, "Hi Dave, are you still thinking about building a home?" ? Scott. That's the email.
There's nothing else inside of the email.
Nothing else inside of the email. It's just, are you still thinking? So it looks like it's very personalized. You don't have all your signature and all that sort of thing. It looks very, very personalized. And when you get it, you're like, oh yeah, shit, I am still thinking about building my home. Hi Scott. Yeah, I am still thinking about it. Just been a bit busy. What's the next step? Or I was wondering about this. So it kickstarts that conversation. So electrician could say, are you still thinking about, getting your lighting fixed? Or let's say a plumber, which is, if it's a big job, like they might be thinking about it. Like let's say they need, I don't know, they've got a tree stump and it's in the way of something and all of that sort of thing. Hi Dave, are you still thinking about getting your drains fixed? That could work. Obviously, small jobs, come and fix my taps. They probably either chosen you or chosen someone else, right? When it's an urgent job. Yeah. But in those sort of situations, it can work. It can work like a dream.
Like a reactivation campaign, but very, very simple.
Super simple reactivation campaign, and you put money in your pocket. Like you look at cost reward, right? The cost is it's going to take you, someone an hour probably just to pull the email lists in and together if you're not sorted with that and send out an email. Apart from that, there's no cost. But the reward, like if you've got 100 lists and you get 2 or 3 clients out of it, it's thousands and thousands of dollars. So
Wow. That is super powerful. For anyone listening, that is just absolute gold. Amazing.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to touch on this. I think if you scrolled through the homepage of YouTube, you would see lots of this type content in titles and thumbnails and stuff like that. So it is quite prolific, but it's not until you reveal or pull back the veil that you see these things and you go, oh, okay, that's why I was curious to click in and do stuff like that. So, and if anybody is interested in titles and stuff like that, I follow a guy who's also got an amazing newsletter. It's called Creator Hooks. He's from the US, and he has analyzed hundreds and thousands of titles from YouTube, and he every month collates all the best ones that have been the best performers. So it's totally free to sign up. I get it every month, and I just think that is just it's absolute gold for me. It's awesome. Yeah.
It's called Creator Hooks.
Creator Hooks.
Yeah,
yep.
cool.
And he's actually got a platform now that he's been able to build, and using his own analytics, it scores the best type of hook. So you can kind of go in there and type in and punch in your title to see whether it's going to theoretically perform. But, there's other things on top of that, like your thumbnail, whether that's matching and stuff like that. So, yeah, just something I thought I'd throw in there for anyone listening. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's great.
Well, Scott, this has been absolutely amazing. The amount of value, I think, for tradies, if you're listening, has been absolutely awesome. So where can people get in touch with you? If people want to have a chat and say, I want an outstanding copywritten headline or something like that, where can they get in touch?
Yeah, so probably the best place to go is just copywritingthatsells.com.au.
That's a great domain as well.
Yeah. And you can also look me up on LinkedIn as well. I'm on there. And if anyone would like, I've also got a copy, which I can give you the link to it and you put it in the show notes. But I've got a 101 headline hacks report as well, which your guests might find quite useful. So
amazing, awesome,
breaks everything down, and if they're writing ads or whatever, and this all comes from my experience of actually writing headlines. So it's not there's plenty of 101 headline hacks that were written like ages ago, but these are all very modern and recent, explains the psychology behind them.
Awesome. Very, very awesome. Well, Scott, thank you so much for coming on the Digital Tradie podcast.
Yeah, no, thanks, Dave. It's been a lot of fun. I hope I was I was 30% as funny as John Dwyer.
I don't think anybody could be as funny as JD. All right. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Dad.
All right. Massive thank you to Scott for coming on the Digital Tradie podcast. There were heaps of awesome little nuggets inside of there, and I hope you picked up at least one. I really loved that word, this. I'm going to probably use it in the title of this podcast. So, you know the drill. Make sure you share this with your mum. My name is David List. I am the Digital Tradie. Until next time, make sure you are creating some legendary content.